in the chat room. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, BallySports.com and 610 Sports Radio. John.
Excuse me, David. First,
yes, sir.
As someone who's seen every episode of Yellowstone, anybody that would ask the question, who's going to win the battle between Beth and her brother Jamie, is clueless about that show and must not have ever watched it, because not only does she own him this year because she caught him committing a murder and she's got it on tape, so he has to call her yes ma'am when she says. She cut his footballs off a long time ago. So that's about like the Eagles playing the Texans. That one's so lopsided. Okay, sorry.
All right, GallerySports.com. I'm sorry about that. Is the intro into John McClain. He's been writing for them here recently. So Philadelphia got beat. Washington looks like they got a little mojo, and unbeaten Eagles went down. Your thoughts about no one's undefeated? Not a surprise, but nobody's undefeated.
Well, first of all, Eagles got a problem like the Cowboys. They can't stop the run. And Washington exploited it by running the ball 49 times, only averaged 3.1 yards carry, and of course, forcing turnovers. They kept the ball for over 40 minutes. When you don't have the ball much and you turn it over, that's a recipe for defeat. And that's why they got beat. And Philadelphia had not turned the ball over hardly at all. They were plus 15, leading the NFL. It's like the Cowboys going up back-to-back games over 200. You've got to be able to stop the run. And Philadelphia, people are going to continue, just like they will with the Cowboys, to try to exploit it. Now, Washington's about to be 6-5 because they play the Texans. Texans are the worst run defense in the NFL, one of the worst in the history of the NFL. So I expect Washington to come in and do the same thing to the Texans, and every team in that division will have a winning record. It is, who would have thunk? I certainly didn't. I thought it was Dallas and Philadelphia that the NFC East would beat the AFC West as being the best division in the NFL by far.
John, the Cowboys fall to Aaron Rodgers again. Do you think he is now motivated to play? Because it looked like he was kind of checked out. Did the Cowboys come in and wake him up?
He was critical of Matt LaFleur's play calling, and LaFleur took the blame, and that's after a victory. Now, I'm thinking if they lose their next game, is he going to go after Matt LaFleur again? Now, he got a good performance from Watson, his rookie receiver. They ran the ball very well. The Packers know when it gets to be late November, you've got to be able to run the ball when you play all your home games at Lambeau Field and you play so many games outdoors. And they were able to do that. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm still astonished that Minnesota is tied for the best record and is a legitimate Super Bowl contender as long as Kirk Cousins doesn't play in primetime, where he's been awful. And that's one thing that makes this season so interesting, are the teams that are doing well that we didn't expect, and the teams that are doing poorly we expected to do well. That's why as they jockey for playoff position in the second half, well, really after Thanksgiving and through the end of the regular season in January, crunch time, it is so exciting.
John, in your expectations, did you have the Raiders nipping on the heels of the Texans for the number one overall pick after 10 weeks?
Oh, Rich Bisaccia went to Green Bay, looks pretty good. Players wanted him to stay last year. They were, I think, 7-2 in one-score games this year. They're 0-6, I believe. And they made the playoffs, and I thought they were going to make the playoffs again. They've been a huge disappointment. The Texans have a half-game lead on them in the standings, and since the Raiders beat the Texans, that's an advantage for the Texans when it comes to getting the first pick in the draft.
John, with Deshaun Watson back, I guess, at the facility his first game will be against the Texans. Was the NFL just like sick evil in making sure? I know that there was like a length of suspension, could be brought back to a certain number of games. Was that almost a sick joke that he's going to open up against the Texans?
I think they did that trying to help out the Texans so they'd have one game people would be interested in because they haven't been interested in anything else. Down here, they'll care about losing to the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, but I think they did that so people would actually be excited about a game. I'm writing my first Deshaun Watson column since I left the Chronicle at the end of March, and I'm going to do it for Gallery Sports tomorrow because every time I wrote about him for the last 2 years, it got a great number of clicks. So I'm going to start it again because the Texans are so bad. I may write more about Watson up to that December 4th game than I do about them.
John, do you think that he'll be ready to play when he comes back, or do you think he'll look rusty because he hasn't played in 2 years?
He hasn't, and it's the only time he's going to play indoors, and the rest of the games are going to be in December outdoors where he has not traditionally played well. He's not going to throw the ball a lot because they got Nick Chubb, and the Texans have given up 181 yards a game against the run. Nick Chubb will come in here and run for 150 yards like most backs do, and they shouldn't need Watson too much.
What have you thought about the turnaround with Tua in Miami?
Right now, Tua and Patrick Mahomes are the two best quarterbacks, two leading candidates for Offensive Player of the Year and MVP. I think the one that doesn't get it will get the other one. Miami's a legitimate Super Bowl contender, 5-0 when Tua starts and finishes a game, and hopefully he can stay healthy. He's hurt every year he's been in football going back to Alabama. Hopefully those concussions early in the year will be his injuries for this season, and because they are fun to watch. Because at a time when everybody's running the ball, going back to old school because of all the two-deep coverages, I think that they can still throw the ball, throw it down the field, hit the quick slant routes. In Miami is a really fun team to watch. And Tua Tagovailoa, they tried to replace him with Deshaun Watson, and right now they are so glad they did not.
They had a parade. The Astros win it. They celebrate it, and then the general manager is out the door. What's been the reaction on James Click and some of the changes?
Most of it is going back over every move Jim Crane has made, and they've all worked out. We were all upset when they let Carlos Correa go in free agency, year before George Springer, year before Garrett Cole, and they just keep going to the World Series and winning a second World Series. So he relies on Jeff Bagwell a lot. He relies on Reggie Jackson a lot. Reggie Jackson's been working for the Astros for 2 years, but mainly Jeff Bagwell. So there's a lot of former Astro personnel people who are worked under Jeff Luhnow, the general manager who was fired after the scandal, who are with other teams, and they're wondering, will he try to hire one of them? Will they come back here knowing that James Click didn't get his contract renewed after winning a World Series? Mm-hmm. Is Jim Crane too involved for another general manager? He left Jeff Luhnow alone, and then after he fired him, he said he better pay more attention and be more hands-on, and that's what he's done, and they've won a World Series. It was written today by Jeff Passan at ESPN when he did a behind-the-scenes thing about what's going on, and he said that Jim Crane wants to be Jerry Jones. I said, whoa. Jerry Jones wants to be Jim Crane because Jim Crane actually wins something.
God. Yeah, look, he doesn't want to be Jerry Jones. That means that 25 years will go by, and he'll be like, what happened?
Well, we won 2 World Series titles. Yeah, but that was 25 years ago, right? John, your Baylor Bears blew a gasket.
They had the bye week last week, right? That was what that was?
Yeah, it was awful. It was a bad night all the way around. What happened to your alma mater?
I go back to 1960 with Baylor, and I can't remember a game. I'm sure there was that I was more disappointed because they control their own destiny, had a great crowd playing at home, and they just got pulverized in every way. And so I quit tweeting at the end, and I quoted my late mother as saying, you have to be nice to Baylor. So I stopped. And so now I'm all about basketball, of course. Can't wait to see what they do in Las Vegas. Of course, if they beat TCU, we'll all be happy. But I sure don't see that happening in light of what happened in Waco and in light of what happened in Austin.
John McClain is the man, retired stockbroker on the chat room. Listened to him for years on 610. He's still there. GallerySports.com. He's doing that. That's from retired stockbroker to you, John. A compliment to you, as always, on the chat room here.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys letting me come on every week so I can say sick 'em.
Thank you very much, John McClain, Hall of
Thank
Fame
you, guys.
columnist, by the way, with us on Tuesdays around